I live in an as yet unfinished straw house, and there's this tradition in straw building circles where you put a truce window in so that you can show the normie unbelievers that yes, it really is straw. I find this tradition a bit self-important, and I did consider putting a truce window in with bricks behind it, just to be a sarky bitch. But then I thought of this idea. I'll spoiler it right now for those who haven't figured it out. It's just mirrors. 3 sides of the box are standard wall mirror, and the floor and ceiling are painted glass. The 4th side that you look through is a one-way mirror, so you can see in but you can't see out. The box is lit from the inside by some battery-powered LED strip lighting that's shining up through the glass floor, because one-way mirror relies on it being dark on the side that you're looking from and lighter on the side that's supposed to be reflective. So once you're in, you're just seeing infinite reflections. I didn't invent this. This is all over the internet if you search for infinity box or infinity mirror. Some versions better than others. None remotely as good as the first one I ever saw, which was like a miniature cathedral interior, all inlaid wood and Gothic arches and freestanding on a pedestal so you could walk all around it and look in from any direction. It was truly astonishing. And I'm gutted that I didn't take note of the artist's name, because I reckon I will never see one that good again. Anyway, best I can do is make my own that's maybe half as good, and so that's what I did. Like I said, this was intended for a straw wall, so the first step was to make a hole in the said straw wall, and with straw walls you do that by grabbing handfuls and yanking them out until the hole is big enough. And then I made a box out of some leftover 9mm ply, the right size to go in that hole, and very sturdy so it would stay square as I shoved it in. Any sturdy box will do, though. If you want to do this at home, just find one at a charity shop or something. The box needs to be lit from the inside for the one-way mirror to do its thing, so you either need to incorporate visible lights into the design, and I've seen really nice examples of that, or what I decided to do was to uplight it through a glass floor. So I chose some chunky hardwood quadrant from my collection and cut 4 pieces short enough to hold up the glass floor with room for a light underneath, and glued them in place. So now I've got an interior space to measure, and I just have to figure out what order and orientation they all go in so that I can cut them to fit quite snugly. Glass is notoriously not flexible once cut, so I did a lot of measuring twice in the hope of cutting once. The plan was for the back mirror to be the full width and the sides to butt up against it, and then all 3 of those sides to leave enough room at the top for the ceiling to slide in on top of them. The floor would drop in between all 3 of those sides, and then the last piece, the front, would cover all of that. So I needed to leave an even 3mm of depth on all sides for that, plus enough room for the wooden trim to hold it all in place, and the little flap to hide the lighting. Good idea to think through all of that very carefully, because it's really difficult to trim 3mm off a pane of glass when you get it wrong. I bought the mirror as a generic no-frills homeware mirror at the hardware store and raided my collection of ex-greenhouse glass for the clear bits, obviously factoring in a bit of cleaning. I've cut a fair amount of glass in my life at this point, so that bit wasn't too challenging. You just score it with a special tungsten carbide rotary cutter and snap it decisively against a straight-edged support. Though as you can see, it sends tiny shards everywhere, so wear eye protection, vacuum afterwards, etc., etc. And I'd never cut mirror, and I wasn't entirely sure that it would snap cleanly without ruining the silvering, but it was fine. I just had to cut the protective backing separately after I snapped it. As for the one-way mirrored front wall, you can buy the proper stuff from specialist places, but it's crazy expensive, so I ordered this shiny but see-through mirror film instead. You apply it with soapy water, wet the surface, and lay a piece on, and then smooth it down carefully, pushing all the water out and eliminating all the air bubbles until it sticks down, basically by forming an almost vacuum seal. It takes some practice, and any tiny bits of dust or surface grit will show, but actually, in this application, it doesn't need to be perfect, so, just chill out. Since the stuff's not actually sticky, it will peel up from the edges, so carefully trim it with a brand new, very sharp scalpel as close as possible to the edges to avoid accidental peel up as much as possible. So I stuck the back and the sides on with a bit of double-sided tape and checked that the ceiling and the floor would still fit as planned, and also checked the fit of the front panel and was pleased that all that measuring twice had done the trick and I didn't have to recut anything. Now for the really fun bit, designing and painting the glass for the floor and ceiling. Having only freshly fired Adobe for being manipulative, grasping, money-obsessed jerks, I had to learn how to do all of the symmetry stuff afresh in Inkscape, which took some effort, but it worked great, and I'll do a separate tutorial on that to share all the hard-earned knowledge I gained. I really love Inkscape, actually, and I recommend it for this and all your other vector graphic needs. So out comes the glass painting gear, which I hadn't used in ages and was not at the very height of my well-practiced skill. But a decent template goes a long way towards obscuring a wobbly hand, and it was fine. You can't be good at everything when you do as many different crafts as I do. The painting went better, albeit with the occasional drip, and again, I'll do a separate video about this craft another time if anyone's interested. I went for a green, blue, purple color scheme thinking that rainbow would be overpowering, but in retrospect I think it would have been better if I'd gone rainbow. The colors would have canceled each other out for an approximately neutral overall light inside the box. Luckily, I designed it so that I could remove and replace the painted glass bits, so I may decide in the future to do that, but for now the witchy green is fine. It sort of goes with the mystery portal to infinity vibes. The bit where it's lit from below was really quite intimidating for me. I haven't really got my head around electricity and wiring and all that. But Jennifer from smallscalelights.co.uk was super helpful, answered all my questions, sent me all the right parts, and really good instructions for wiring it all together. To be fair, she wired much of it before sending, so it really was an idiot-proof kit. Many props to her, highly recommended business. I used a battery box, 2 short strips of sticky back LED lights, and a reed switch, which is on by default and then turns off when you hold a magnet near it. So clever and cool. No clunky push-button gizmo required. I taped it all up inside a sort of cardboard cartridge that could be slid into the bottom of the box with the reed switch taped to the front so that a magnet embedded in the door would turn the light off when the door was closed. I just drilled a divot into the inside of the door to hold the reed switch magnet. And then I also had to add another pair of magnets to hold the door closed in the first place because I hadn't left room for a mechanical door catch. Whoops. One of the magnets stuck just fine being jammed into the divot, and the other I had to epoxy into place. It's a little ugly, but if I turn out to hate it later, I can just glue a pretty sheet of paper over the top. I was pleased to be able to use this cute little door pull that I'd been carting around for years, too. Better woodworkers than me would have made a fancier door, but I'm happy with my aesthetic of half-assed amateurism. So the time came to assemble it in place. Box into the hole, nice and tight. Ceiling and floor slotted into place with the white paper above and below to diffuse the light a little bit. Some little decorative white posts I'd made for the corners from smaller hardwood quadrant. They're just held in place with gravity and a fairly precise fit. I wanted to be able to deconstruct it in case of design regret over the floor and ceiling. Screwed the door on with tiny hinges and inserted the light cartridge, and was pleased that the corner lifting that occurred on the mirror film as I placed the last piece in didn't turn out to be a deal breaker. You can hardly see it once the wooden frame that holds it all in place is screwed in. Lastly, I just propped in a bit of plywood and trim to hide the light, which is just a friction fit, so everything is removable for eventual battery replacement. I'll admit I used a little bit of expanding foam on each side of the box between it and the straw to make it as unwobbly as possible. Proper natural builders will clutch their naturally produced unfarmed pearls, but I think a tiny bit of expanding foam has its place. And it was here. Then it just remained to clay plaster and paint the entire stairwell wall, which took a couple of weeks more. But now it's finally done, and it looks great, and I love it. And now I just kind of spend my life waiting for another new person to come over so that I can watch their reaction as they open it. I'm easily amused.